Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right-hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Yellow.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, this is Josh, right?
Yes, it is.
How's it going, man? Excited to be on this.
Oh, same here. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Oh, thank you for. I know that the scheduling was all messed up because we were on tour and traveling a lot the last week. So I know that, like, with Claire, she was really rescheduling everything to make it work. So I'm glad it worked out.
Oh, same here, and very grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk about you guys, everything going on in the offering, and of course the brand new debut album, Home, which just came out just a couple weeks ago, August 2nd through Century Media.
Yeah.
So with that said, I mean, I happened to discover you guys thanks to your PR sending me the music, and from track one, my jaw just absolutely hit the ground with what you guys were capable of. I mean, I love this sound. I love the combination of what you guys do, hitting so many different genres that I love and just blending them in a way that just feels like it was so natural to put together. I mean, with all of that said, how did this whole band come to be?
You mean like thank you, by the way, for saying that.
Oh, of course.
That's very, very kind. Do you mean our origins or just the album?
Oh, yeah, like, how did it all start from the beginning to where you are now with Home?
Oh, wow. So, I mean, we we all used to play in punk bands, actually. We weren't really... I mean, we're all metal players, for sure, and we played locally around Boston, and we'd always go to each other's show, and in some cases, we'd open for each other, or we'd play the same sets, and we'd always notice, like, hey, that guy isn't actually, like, a punk player. Like, like Steve, our drummer, like, he'd play in this really, this floppy drunk ska band that everybody loved, and it was great, but you listen to him play, and he was just, like, a super robust, very, like, precise drummer. You're like, there's no way that guy's a punk guy, and that's kind of how it went down for everybody else in the group, and eventually we started exchanging numbers and jamming out, and at some point or the other, I'd played with everybody in the band of that previous iteration, and I came to get really close with Alex, our singer, and he decided, hey, let's take an initiative. Let's try to get everybody together in the same room. So in 2015, we all moved in together, and we were like, let's do this. Like, we're gonna dream big and see what we can get out of this group of talent. And that led to us making our EP, which led to us getting signed with Century Media because they loved it. They loved the progress we were making. And ultimately, we just built on that and got to Home. And that's just, the result of, I think it's been 4 years on the release day. Yeah, 4 years since we started the band.
Oh, that's incredible. And, funny enough, August 2nd, this past August 2nd was the 8th year that I started interviewing bands and started promoting bands. So, it was great to see that happen on August 2nd. I was able to discover a new band like The Offering and, just like absolutely loving what I've heard from here. And knowing that there was a previous EP, that makes me want to go out and buy that to see where the band originally came from to where you guys are now with Home.
Awesome. Yeah, it's on there. It's for a while it wasn't online because I think we were trying to really, when we signed with Century, we wanted a proper rollout. There are limited copies of the vinyl. I'm not sure if they're still available, but yeah, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on all those services again, which I'm really stoked about too because there was like a period of like a year where I had people asking me like, hey, where's the EP? And I'm like, I can't answer that for you because that's a label decision,
Yeah, and that's great to see that it was able to come back now. I mean, from like everything that I've heard, like just knowing that this was like a debut EP and just like hearing all these great combinations of things. I mean, it's easily my favorite discovery of 2019 so far is Home from The Offering. Absolutely, I say that with no question at all. My favorite discovery of the year.
Thank you. Really appreciate that, man. Like, that blows my mind that people say that.
Yeah, and it's just, and I mean, I feel the same way saying about like the combination of music that's going on there because it's just like there's so many like different genre changes that go on even within one song, let alone when you're able to have like a 14-minute epic title track.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the goal. Like, we all have really specific tastes in what we listen to. It's hard for us all to have the same aux chord when we're on tour to listen to music on the road. But me personally, I'm lucky because a lot of it is, I grew up not really thinking about genre that much. I was even my background, like I never really had like an ear or a mindset towards like, hey, this is how things are supposed to be. I just it was all you can eat buffet for me. Like I would just find whatever music I could listen to. And so when it comes to songwriting, like I just throw it all on the board. And luckily, like these guys are just insanely versatile. Like it's crazy. Like our drummer can play R&B and soul and death metal at the same time. Our singer is just this unbelievably great, talented folk singer that people don't really realize. But then he's also this insane, what people are calling like the next, they compare him to Halford all the time. And it's like, that's not all he can do, but the fact that he can do that makes it so that whatever you give him, he's able to adapt to it and make something great. And that's, I think, what made this EP or this full length as good as it did. Like everyone's just, they take it and they go, okay, I see the spin you're trying to take on it. It's not just metal or it's not just this subgenre. Let's roll with it,
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say that about all four of you guys. I mean, just like listening and really dissecting the album, I mean, all four of you just like shine in individual ways. And I know like everything that's on this album is not fully what you guys can do. So that makes me excited what's going to be happening with future releases when the sound of the band expands even more.
Yeah, thanks for picking up on that. Yeah, we really want to. I mean, it's weird because we're at this stage now where none of us have had this level of scrutiny in our lives where we have reviewers going through us and saying, okay, this is the potential of what you can do, what you can't do, and it makes me really excited to see some people actually realize, like, hey, this isn't the end of it. Like, we can do more, and I want to do more. We want to keep doing weirder stuff as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, and I can totally hear that as well, too. I mean, of course, though, with the sound that's going on with the album now, I mean, like, when this band came together, I mean, when you first started writing songs together, like, how did you know what directions to go in? I mean, was it just, like, natural riffs coming up, or did you have, like, an idea, or how did that come together?
It wasn't that natural, honestly. When we first got together, it's interesting because we had a different lineup before. We had another guitar player and a different bass player. And it's weird because everyone is super talented and great, but when you put great people together, it doesn't automatically equate to a great, focused, finished product. That's why I think a lot of supergroups are great to listen to, but they don't make a lot of timeless records. It's because the chemistry has to be there, I think. I mean, what do I know right now? But with the EP, with that lineup, we'd spend like weeks in the same room and we wouldn't get a single demo out. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, like someone's got to take initiative. We just have to just start going and, put stuff down. And the EP, and you'll listen to it, and I'm sure you'll get the same realization. It's like, you can tell that we're trying to play it very safe and not for worry of what people might think of it, but it was me personally worrying what the other band members might take of what I was giving them in any kind of material, because I didn't know the potential of everybody that well. I knew that they were great, but I didn't know what their intentions were. So over time, living together, I think we started to get a real knack for what the other guy liked and what they prefer, what their preferences are, what kind of looks they like to have when they play. And that's why I think when you listen to the full length compared to the EP, you hear that change of like, okay, these guys sound like they're comfortable in the same room together. Whereas back then, like, we might have been good friends, but we didn't really know what the other person preferred.
Oh yeah, and that totally makes sense. I mean, a lot of times you can hear that with a first release from a band. I mean, sometimes it's going to be an all-time classic when it's that first release, but a lot of times that first release is just like testing the waters of what the band can be, and then the next release is where the band starts to get really comfortable. So if I go back to that EP, I think I'll definitely be able to pick up on that, but now hearing the band be more comfortable here with Home, like I said, it's got me really excited to see where the band's going to be going from here on out.
Yeah, you're that drummer guy, so I know you play drums, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So you'll actually notice that the most with the EP, because of all the people in the band that I felt were most restrained in that current lineup, it was our drummer, Steve, because, what I was giving him, I think a drummer really benefits from being in their zone, regardless of what the style of music is. If it's a style that they prefer, or if it's a direction that they can agree with, I think they can really manipulate the dynamic of a song and how to make those highs and lows feel higher and lower than they actually are. For him, it was so linear and very safe for him that I think drummers notice it the most when they hear the EP. It's very, like, I want to say it's stock or it's basic, but you'll hear that, like, he sounds restrained, and not bad. He's still playing great. Like, it's good performance for sure. you can tell that he wants to spread his wings more, and you'll see the growth the most, I think, from him to this record as well.
Yeah, and again, it's just it's so great to see that too. I mean, when a band is able to become more comfortable, when they are really truly able to be themselves, and like you mentioned earlier, that chemistry's got to be there. And once that chemistry is just right, and you start getting into writing mode, and you start really finalizing the songs, I mean, that's where the potential really starts to kick in, and you see what this band is capable of. And again, I mean, that's what I love so much about Home, is that it does feel like that chemistry is there, no matter how off the wall it can sound. I mean, it sounds very concise for what you guys are trying to pull off, no matter where it goes musically.
Right. Thank you for picking up on that, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So, with that in mind, I mean, with being able to get picked up by Century Media, and of course getting a lot of promotion for that, and of course having the album out just a couple weeks ago, I mean, what was it like to be able to release that first single, knowing that people are finally going to be able to hear you guys fully for the first time?
Honestly, it was like ripping a Band-Aid off. We were, when it's a debut record, but we've been sitting on it for, I think, 2017. We've been starting to write it. Took us about 6 months or 7 months to really put it all together and do the lineup changes and everything. So for us to finally put that out, it was kind of like, this is us starting out instead of the EP. It was like fresh legs, and it didn't really, to me, it didn't even matter whether people loved it or hated it. It was just, thank God it's out. Like, let's finally get the ball rolling and let's see what the reactions are. And lucky for us, it's been super positive.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that too. And I was able, I was happy to see how many singles have been released for the album so far, and just like really showing off that variation of the album without giving everything away.
Yeah. We had our preferences for sure on singles, but I think for the most part, the label picked all the ones we thought that would be there. It was just for music video and stuff, we didn't really know, when you roll an album out, it's different. One's a lyric video, one's a music video, one might just be a stock, static video ahead of time for radio. You never know. And so when the label picked them, we were like, these are the right songs, but, I think you can pick any song on the album except maybe the last two, and that would be pretty definitive of what the sound of the album is going to be like.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair comparison with that. But even those last two songs, and of course the bonus track that goes along with that as well, I mean, it just like every song has a very distinct feel to it, and it's truly an album. It's not just a collection of singles and B-sides. I mean, it feels like an album that's meant to be listened to from start to finish.
Oh my God, thank you for saying that. Holy crap, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you listen to a lot of records. I mean, this is me as a fan right now talking about music, but that I feel like that gets lost a lot more in today's world with singles than, maybe in the 80s or 90s when you listen to those records. It's like, it's a very full album experience. You sit down, you put the LP in, you just roll it front to back, and you just, go on an adventure with it, right? Nowadays, I feel like that's so rare, and so we wanted to give that experience in 2019, and you never know how that's going to work out with, people kind of want to pick their single and run, put it on their playlist and keep going. And that's totally fine. I think we wanted to have both elements of that. But we also wanted to have something where people had 8 songs where there were like 8 characters, and they can, jump in each one and get an experience and, play that role and then go to the next one.
Yeah, and that's so important, and I'm so glad to see that you guys were thinking of that as well. I mean, like, making an album for someone like me that loves listening from start to finish to see where the band is at that period of time, rather than just, like, releasing a single and going off of it, like you were talking about. It's just, again, it's like all of these songs have their own nature to them, and it makes me want to listen from start to finish, and even more so than listening to the album, it makes me very excited for the opportunity to be able to hear these songs live.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's a similar fashion live. I think we're still ironing out the kinks, especially on this last tour, because, there's a lot of orchestration. There's a lot of small things going on, and for me and Alex especially, because we have the most layers on the album, we want to make sure that we're not just phoning it in and playing the wrong part. But luckily, we recorded the album in a sense of, there might be so many layers, but you're only meant to be listening to one specific thing at a time. So for us live, it's like, okay, this is what the audience thinks they're supposed to hear. So what part are we going to hop on? What layer are we going to pick as our primary? Because we do have a little bit of assistance on playback live, but it's not like no one's playing the high notes for us. No one's singing the high stuff. No one's playing the solos. It's literally just like the wall that, like the synths and stuff that are on the album that are underneath all the instruments. So we're not getting a lot of help from that live. But we want to still capture like a rock and roll show. And I think with progressive music, it tends to be, a question of, did they hit all their notes right? And for us, we want to have this crazy, I want to do backflips on stage, like we want to do crazy stuff live.
Oh,
So,
and just hearing that makes me even more excited for the opportunity to be able to see you guys live. And for me, I don't need to hear the exact album live in that live setting. I just want to be able to hear the songs live and know that it's an authentic take on those songs live. And it sounds like that's what's being worked on right now. And once you get like the stage show going on there, you get all those kinks ironed out. I just imagine that every show will just be on fire once everything is just rolling the way that you want it to be.
yeah, absolutely. It's also difficult too because we're still fresh, so we don't have a crazy production crew. We just have a tour manager and usually some helping hands here and there. So for us, it's also about working within our means and saying, okay, how can we deliver a big rock show when we're just 4 guys on stage? So
Oh yeah.
I like that though because I think the best results often come from people trying to work around their limitations, and I hope we can do it. We're still starting out on the live set aspect of it, so I think we'll figure it out. It'll just take some time.
And I also think that comes from like that punk sensibility where all of you guys started off with too. I mean, when you're not focusing on like having gigantic background choirs and having like all these gigantic like confetti cannons or something on stage. I mean, it's just 4 guys playing music and having fun with it. And once it becomes more authentic live and you're able to like really polish off things the way that it wants to, I mean, it's gonna have all these different crazy sounds that people who are checking you out for the first time in that live setting, they may not understand what's going on, but I think they're going to get that punk sensibility that it's 4 guys on stage having a great time.
Dude, very true. We our favorite live acts tend to be like the Led Zeppelin, the Van Halen, Pantera, just like 4 guys that just can, take their portion of the stage and own it. That's what we want to do for our sets.
And with that too, I mean, whether you guys are going out on tour or you're getting to like open for all of these amazing and very bands, I mean, what's that like for you to be able to like open for like power metal bands, into hardcore bands, into prog bands? What's that like for you?
It's honestly Christmas. When we did Gävle in Sweden, we played our set, and then we got to go outside and hang out at a festival and see all these great bands that, in many cases I grew up listening to. Besson was special for us because, we were on main stage with Dream Theater and Arch Enemy, and, being backstage with those guys and seeing, great minds walking around, you just kind of feel like, okay, like I can learn a lot from this. And hopefully, as we keep doing this, we've had a lot of luck with converting fans at these shows. I think that when people see us live, it doesn't matter what sensibilities they have, they'll pick up on it if they're a hardcore kid or a punk kid or a metal kid or a power metal guy. And I think that's our ace in the sleeve. So I think we'll keep trying that. We want to play with as many different types of bands as possible and see what sticks. Because for us, what we've noticed in reviews and sound checks is, it's like, what genre do they fit in? And that's going to be a concern going forward. For me, I don't really care. I just hope that we can give something that people can't get anywhere else, and they just slot us on any show they can possibly put us on,
Yeah, and again, I'm glad that you have that mindset, because that's the way I think about it as well. Like with me promoting you guys and actually having you open the show this week. That I actually had Ultraviolence starting off my radio show this week, and it's just like it doesn't matter to me anyways. I mean, like you can have like these power metal vibes, these hardcore vibes, these punk vibes, metal vibes, whatever the case is. I like the idea that there is so much of that going on, because I feel like no matter what kind of music that you're listening to, it can bring in someone, and they might start to be able to appreciate those other styles of music because of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, exactly. I have a firm philosophy that you listen and you experience life through your own personal experiences. And I think that people that have a hardcore sensibility will pick out the hardcore sensibilities and not the other ones. And that's totally fine. I just want people to have their own experience when they listen to our music, both lyrics and sonics.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm glad to see that that's what's going on. And of course, just like working on the live show to make that the best it can possibly be. And even though the album is still fresh to so many people that are discovering you right now, be it this interview, being it's a couple weeks ago when the album came out, or coming up in the future, I imagine that the second album is already on your guys' minds already.
Yeah, it actually is. I told the guys too, like, hey, let's just take a breather. Don't think about playing anything for a bit. The songwriting burden definitely falls on myself and the singer, because we usually come up with a chunk of what's going on, and for us, it's a very involved process. that being said, I don't think we'll, really get together until maybe beginning of next year. But I'm already thinking about, what we always like to think about, what the theme or the accomplishing or the objectives are for the next records. We did that for home too. We sat down, put up a whiteboard, and said, okay, what are we aiming at right now? And we'll probably do the same the next couple of weeks and get to writing, honestly. But we want to tour. That's all we want to do right now. So.
Oh yeah, and just again, of course, it can be polarizing hearing so many different styles and genres that's going on with the music. I mean, that still makes me very happy to see your mentality on there, that you don't care what kind of bands that you open for, because there's so many different kinds of music out there that you can expose your music to, so many great things you can learn from bands that either you love or you may not have heard of, that you grow to appreciate from seeing them live and then checking them out later. I mean, there's so many great things that can come out of these live shows, and just being able to build up that repertoire of these live shows, all these amazing bands that you played with. I mean, I'm glad to see that side is being worked on so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we also want to grow. I mean, we don't want to be the same band 15 years from now. So hopefully that through touring and being on these great bills and sharing the stage with a lot of great artists, we learn a lot in the process. I don't think we're ever going to be so self-contained that we don't take information from the outside, because veterans have a lot to offer.
Yeah, and again, that's just what makes me so excited about it. And every time that I listen to the album, like I said before, I mean, it's got me very excited about what's going to be happening in the future. If this is what you guys are already doing with the debut LP, and again, just like building up that live show, getting your name out there, and of course having the amazing backing of Century Media. I mean, what is that like for you to be on Century Media?
They've been absolutely fantastic. Everyone has this crazy image of what a record label is like, hand in the pockets and, solely screwing a band over. It's not the case with them at all. They have, their opinions on, the music here and there, but for this stuff, they didn't tinker with anything until the absolute, when it was already done. They kind of have this weird faith in us that we'll just figure it out. And at first I didn't know whether it was apathy or whether it was trust. And they were like, no, like you make the record you want to make, and we'll sell the absolute, I don't know if I can swear here, but they'll sell the whatever out of it. They really wanted to let us do our personal statement. And I think the most admirable part about what they're doing is they're developing us from the ground up. And not many record labels do that anymore. I mean, we've had offers from other record labels that weren't developmental contracts. They were kind of just like, here, give us an album and we'll kind of sell it and whatever. Century is like, no, we got 4 albums with us, and let's try to make you the biggest band possible, start from the ground up, and really, tell the world what you guys are. And that's like a story of absolute fairy tale, So for us, we're very grateful to have them. They're so efficient.
Oh, and that's just fantastic to hear a positive record label story that's going on. I mean, there's so many horror stories that go on about record labels and stuff like that. But hearing what's going on with you guys in Century Media, and getting that developmental deal, being able to build up what you guys are within the next 4 albums, and whatever happens in the future, I love the fact that they're taking you under the wing and letting you be you and develop who you really are.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't ask for a better record label to be on team with, and they're making changes internally as well. They want to make the next generation of metal, and a lot of record labels are signing veterans, and that's fine. I mean, we want to keep the genre going, and you sign veterans to keep them on stage. That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. But you have to start thinking about, hey, what's the next 20 years of metal going to look like when all the older guys start to retire? So they're thinking ahead, and they're making some great decisions that they're signing. They're signing some awesome, cool bands. Mass Worship's a new band that they're signing. Great metalcore, like a hardcore band, old school. And it's like no other record label you could think of would be signing a band like that right now. But they're making those risks. They're making those gambles that I think need to be made and have often been put aside in the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, and, the fact that they are having that forward-thinking mentality, and, of course, signing an amazing band like The Offering, I mean, I think that's just an amazing way to be able to start that off, and everything else that they're going to be doing from all the other sides of metal that they can accomplish with Century Media. It's just such a great thing to see that. And again, I'm just so happy for you guys to be able to be yourselves and continue to be able to do that through this contract.
Yeah, absolutely. They got 3 more albums with us, and I'm sure that when that's all said and done, we'll start thinking about whether we want to re-sign or not. But that'll be like 10 years from now. Who knows? But I will say that just the direction that they're taking their label in, we want to be a part of that movement. And, it doesn't really... you can put a price tag on some things. Certain money advances to help you do bigger things is obviously a nice perk. But it gets to a point where you're working with a team that you really enjoy and they have a very good game plan that you want to be a part of. And I think you can't put a price tag on that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with that. And speaking of all that, I mean, of course, Century Media, the new album, working on the touring and everything that's going on. Like, now, considering that you guys are going through Europe right now and playing, what's going to be coming up next for the band?
So we're looking at more tours right now. We want to. We just did a European tour to celebrate the release, and we did Wacken, which was absolutely amazing. And I think in the fall we're going to start looking at some main support stuff because we want to get out there and start showing people what this sounds like live. But also, I think there's a lot of video content that I'm planning out with the guys. But I mean, for us, it's about making this album a whole package. We want to have a nice tour with it. We want to have nice visuals, playthroughs. We want to really make it so that this is like an era of the band, not just some album that falls by the wayside. And I always loved bands growing up that had that experience of like, okay, this album, they did this, and they had this aesthetic to it, and they had, these videos that went along with it, and, their tour had this, theme to it. So I want us to start getting more unified in that aspect and give this album a solid rollout for the next, 2 years before we start releasing the next one.
Oh, and it's amazing to hear that game plan as well, too, and definitely the right way to go about it, too. I mean, whether you do some small headlining shows, you go back to Europe to do the festival circuits, or the idea right now to be able to do the main support slots, and, just like really getting your name out there for half hour, 45 minutes, whatever the case is for the tour.
Any time, and we'll deliver for, even if it's 20 minutes. We're happy to be on stage with big guys. I think we would rather do a support for a band that we can learn a lot from than do a headliner set, for when we're just starting out. I think, that's the way to go for us. And we're going to, our agent at APA is we're very coordinated with that strategy, and we're going to start pushing that forward.
Oh, absolutely. And I imagine that set, when you do get those main support slots, is just going to be absolutely killer, and it's only going to get better with each and every show.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it does.
Oh, awesome. Well, I think with that, that's an amazing note to end on. I thank you so very much for taking this time to talk to me about everything that's going on right now with the offering. And of course, the brand new debut album, Home, which is available now through Century Media. Like I said in the beginning, and I absolutely mean it, it is my favorite discovery of 2019. Easily going to be one of my favorite albums of the year. And I thank you so much for talking to me about everything that's going on in your world right now and getting me excited for what's going to happen with the band in the future.
Josh, honestly, thank you so much for saying all of that. It makes our day to have opportunities like this and to hear that be like 100% serious.
Oh yeah, I couldn't mean that more. I mean, I love being able to support the bands that I care about, whether the band started 3 weeks ago or they've been going for 30 years. Good music is good music, and I want to be able to spread that word, and I couldn't think of a better band right now to be able to do that with than The Offering.
Awesome. Thank you for fighting the good fight, man.
Oh, not a problem. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
No, this has been a great conversation, man. I think we've hit all the points.